I didn't realize I was muted all this time. All
Hello.
right. Being respectful of your time, we will go ahead and get started. I apologize for the delay. Can I get an indication of what screen you're looking at right now? Are you looking at our faces or the shared screen with the flyer?
I think you are looking at the shared screen
Oh,
with
there's
the
Mr.
flyer.
Rupe. Oh, thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Are you getting me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I had some network problem here.
Oh, no worries. Thank you for joining. I would like to
Okay.
officially welcome everybody to this webinar series. Um, in the first session, I shared some data from some of the research that I led last year about drought and the state of our drought risk management in our country, in Zambia. And for this particular session, we brought together a panel of participants from various sectors, um, from the fisheries and livestock. We have urban agriculture, we have Zambia Meteorological Department, and we have an honorable member of parliament for Kamfinsa, who will speak from his experience as a policymaker and also whatever sectors in the constituency that is representing. So thank you so much again for joining this webinar series. Basically, the webinar, like I said, brings together researchers, policymakers, practitioners, and communities to reflect and to learn and explore practical steps that we can take to better prepare ourselves to face drought in the future. If we have not met, my name is Dr. Andrew Mwape, and I'm a disaster risk management and climate resilience expert. Those are my details there if you would like to stay in touch. This was a lineup for our first session. So I did briefly talk about Drought 101 just to set context for the discussions. I will go ahead and talk about that again. If it's redundant information for you, please bear with me. But I like to believe that it helps us to set context for our discussions today. And then I shared item number 2 and 3 on the state of drought management in our country from the 3 studies that we undertook last year. Drought 101, what is drought? Drought basically is a period of abnormally dry weather long enough to cause serious hydrological imbalance. And when we talk about drought, really, it means different things to different people. If you are going to ask a farmer, their definition of drought to be different from that of somebody that deals with water supply. If you are going to ask what drought is to somebody that keeps animals, it will look different from somebody that's depending on water for energy supply. So there are various definitions of drought that exist out there. And some of these include meteorological, which is just drought that is associated with rainfall, hydrological, drought associated with water in water bodies. Socioeconomic, this is just drought that's associated with the impacts of water deficits on the socioeconomic dynamics of a community, in this case, our country, Zambia. Agricultural, that's just drought associated with farmers and crop, including livestock. Ecological is just the threshold, disparities in our hydrologic and ecosystem imbalances. Now, the many definitions that exist out there makes it very difficult even to come up with policies to manage drought. Because if you're going to come up with a policy to manage drought, it must speak to all the different definitions that exist out there and the various expectations that all these communities will have about drought. So these complexities render drought a very challenging disaster to manage. When you think about drought management, you are either thinking of it in two forms. You're thinking of it as a disaster, or you're thinking of it as a hazard. What is the difference? The difference is that a hazard is just a potential to cause significant damage. When that potential is actualized, that is the drought disaster. In most
Ah,
cases and in most communities that we live in, thinking of drought management as a disaster is just a natural flow of things. You know, when a drought happens, you have no option but to respond. So we are thinking of drought as a disaster. On the other hand, when you are thinking of drought as a hazard, you are thinking of practical, proactive steps that you take as a community to prepare for drought. And in the meteorological and drought community, various scholars will have different perceptions of this. But my thinking is that there's no one right approach to managing disasters. The best way to at it is look at it as both. Effective drought management practices must embrace the approach of managing disasters as a hazard and also as disasters. So that includes we need to have mitigation measures in place before the disaster happens that will help us reduce the impacts. But when the disaster happens, we must be ready to respond and attend to the challenges that the disaster brings. So the statement below is just what I'm from saying. Effective drought management addresses both hazards and disasters. Here's another way to look at it. A disaster risk is basically something that has a possibility to happen. So a disaster risk is not the disaster itself, but thinking of it as before the disaster happens. Drought is endemic to any climate that receives and depends on precipitation. But how we handle the disasters, the disaster risks, determines how effective our practices will be. So disaster risks could be thought of in the sense of exposure. Is the community, is our country exposed to disaster risks? As I said, any climate that depends on precipitation has the exposure to drought. In our country, we have, I think as of last year, over 85% of our energy dependence was hydro. Most of our agricultural practices are rain-fed. So there is exposure and there is also vulnerability. Vulnerability is just a mix of, exposure. There's a hazard. We know drought is endemic. It's going to happen. And it's not a question of whether it will happen or not. It's a matter of when it happens. When the drought happens, we understand our exposures, we understand our vulnerabilities, and we are proactively managing disaster risks even before the disaster strikes. This is just a repetition of the figure that I showed about 2 slides before this. Drought management can be thought of in the sense of crisis, which is a reactive approach where we wait until the disaster happens and we swing into action. Managing risks is therefore understanding that as a country, we are endemic to drought risks, and therefore we should be doing something about it. So managing of our risks to drought and also preparing to respond. Like I said, it's most common that communities are reacting to the disaster and not proactively managing disasters. Effective drought management practices integrate both crisis and risk management approaches. Drought risk management refers to all activities aimed at reducing the impacts of drought on communities and natural ecosystems. Examples of such include drought vulnerability, understanding our drought vulnerability. Are we vulnerable to drought? And not just at the national level, but at a very community level. What communities are affected, are vulnerable to drought when it happens? We have had droughts in the past, so understanding our impacts when the drought happens, when it happened in the past, what sectors were impacted by the drought? How do we expect future droughts to affect such communities. Monitoring and early warning systems. Do we have enough early warning systems that speak to the relevance of the sectors that we have at the grassroots level? And it's not just about having these systems. How effective are they? How relevant are they to the communities that we have? Mitigation practices. Are we engaged in activities that ensure that when a disaster happens, there's reduced, impact on our communities? And response, of course. Are we prepared to respond to disasters when they happen? There are several benefits to this approach of managing drought disasters. Number one, it reduces uncertainties because you know what you're dealing with, you understand your vulnerabilities. And so when a disaster happens, you know where your resources are, you know what communities need help the most. And so it's not just a shot in the dark. It increases awareness. Awareness is very important. You can only manage what you know and what you understand. So increases awareness, increases collaboration. One of the findings from the 3 studies that I led last year is limited collaboration among institutions that are dealing with drought in our communities. So you have NGOs that are doing their own things, government is doing their own things, the private sector is doing their own things, but looking at drought in a risk management approach ensures that we are coordinated, bring together all these efforts to work towards one common goal. It helps to promote preparedness. It's established that for $1 spent on drought risk management, you save you save about $6 of resources. So it's not a waste of money when we spend money on drought preparedness and mitigation. Effective drought risk management practices are local. As I mentioned in the various definitions of drought, drought is most felt at the community level. So if we are going to talk about effective drought management, it must be relevant to the local communities, to the very household level. So this is what a successful drought policy looks like. Effective, relevant early warning and monitoring systems, effective mitigation, preparedness and response strategies, and an understanding of vulnerability and impact assessment. And the 3 pillars speak to each other to ensure effectiveness. These are some of the pictures that I took during our data collection last year. In this picture here, this is the Zambezi River in Mongo, and in the background, if you look at the pillars there, you can see the water levels. This was the previous 2 previous water years. Water was this high. In the previous year, water was this high. This was around October last year, water was that low. So you can imagine what the impacts of these impacts would be on the sectors that are most vulnerable in our country. This picture, I took this picture in the Kafue Park. Somebody just decided to start a fire there. This was in Southern Province. I can't remember exactly what district this was. And the picture here was in Central Province. And these are more pictures of wildlife vulnerability. And as you would agree, there's been more increased wildlife-human conflicts across the country. Let me rush to the main figure of. And I've been part of several studies in the region, and I'm proud to say that Zambia is one of the countries that has one of the best drought policies and drought structures at the national level. We have a committee chaired by the vice president. At the provincial level, we have the PS chairing a committee. At the district level, we have the district commissioner. And at the very community level, we have communities that are led by communities. So this is at a policy level. We have some credit to give ourselves there. And this is the main figure of this one study that I shared in the first session of this webinar series. And what this figure just shows is the various activities of an effective drought management policy. What you are looking at are the solid black pillars that show community participation of people in the various aspects of drought management. So you see, if you are to draw a normalizing curve here, you see that we have a lot of participation in response, very reactive, and very little participation in understanding in understanding our vulnerabilities, and also very little in mitigation, as well as early warning systems. I think as a result of the 2023-2024 drought, we've seen an increase in early warning and drought monitoring activities going on, but we need more work as a country in understanding our vulnerabilities, understanding our impacts, and investing in mitigation programs. All right, so I thought I should give that background just to give context. This presentation is active on my YouTube channel if you would like to look back and see what more details about that study. Today's program is more on what are the experiences of drought from the sector point of view. What are some of the experiences and impacts that were experienced from the 2023-2024 drought, being our drought of reference? And then what resources were available for you during the drought? And what challenges did you experience during the drought? Apart from the challenges, what opportunities do you think we have as a country moving forward in facing future droughts? And then we have Zambia Meteorological Department. I'm not sure if we have DMMU representation, but ZMD will spend time talking about the resources that government has that are available for various sectors as far as drought management is concerned. And then we will have a discussion. Feel free to ask questions to fellow panelists and anything that you would like to add after everybody has spoken. So you have 7 minutes to talk about let's say 7 minutes. You have 7 minutes to talk about your experience, challenges, opportunities, and what the future looks like for your sector. And then DMMU will get 10 to 15 minutes to talk about the resources available afterwards, and then we will have an interaction thereafter. So I will go ahead and invite, let's start with, I must mention that this program is a non-profit, non-governmental, and non-political platform. So any expert opinions by me, I'm solely responsible, and any opinions issued by the various sector representatives, they are solely responsible for that. And our goal, as I mentioned earlier, is to bring our communities together to understand our drought and the disasters that lie ahead better. So why don't you take us on, Mr. Isaac, if you're ready. Mr. Isaac Mlombwe. I think you're muted. Mr. Mlombo, you're muted. Ms. Kundananji, are you ready? As we wait for Mr. Mlombo.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Mlombo.
Confirm your identity. Thank you very much. I'm Mr. Isaac Mlombwe from Zambia. I stay in Kapiri South, to be specific, Mukonchi area. So our experience there, I personally come from Likumbi agriculture block. So Likumbi agriculture crop in the previous season, we received almost total crop failure, especially on the southern part of that area, bordering Mulungush Power Station, going through up to Upper Lusemfwa, that area across the plateau, we really suffered the drought effects, which our crops mainly, we experienced failure on the vegetative stage. Some farmers were experiencing failure on flowering stage. And my fellow farmers on this platform and everyone, it is important to note that climate change has really devastating effects, especially on crop production and livestock. Because we are finding that for a crop to grow, it requires moisture, as in water, in the form of moisture in the soil. So you find that when you plant this crop and you find that there is drought, if the crop loses or misses water within an interval of 3 weeks, I tell you, even if the rain comes after that, already they would have been compromised on the yield, because each milliliter of water counts. So if this crop suffered distress due to drought, even if it has received a supplement of water, it will still have suffered enough damage in terms of yield potential. Nevertheless, in this situation, community-wise, yes, a lot of farmers had suffered, but the alternative one, it is not sustainable. A lot of community members resorted to alternative of charcoal burning as alternative livelihood, because Lusaka has market for charcoal. So 3/4 of farmers up there, they started involving themselves in charcoal production. As we say right now, there is a high market coming from that area towards Lusaka through D425, through D4200 road, the Mulungushi Lusemfa road. So other farmers, those who managed to access irrigation facilities like drip irrigation and boreholes, they managed to plant the new varieties of seeds which offered them at least a good yield, especially that these seeds, they have been manufactured to suit these issues of drought. So those who managed to plant the early maturing varieties which are drought tolerant, they managed to get some. But according to the research which I did during my study of community-based monitoring system from the University of Information and Communication in Lusaka, when I managed to go on the ground, one of the results which was there, it showed really that farmers in this season had suffered much damage in terms of the yield losses. On the other hand, livestock farmers had challenge with finding water for their livestock. It is important to note that during last year, the levels of water in Mulungushi Dam drastically reduced, which affected most of the farmers up there. Yeah, in Kapiri district, we only have almost one main river, which is this Mulungushi River, and other rivers, small rivers like Mubofwe in Mukonchi there, which take water in Mulungushi. Others are Muswishi in Chiwombo, but it also brings water in the Mulungushi. So these rivers also were affected in terms of supply of water because they depend on rainfall for them to be filled up to release water to the rivers. So otherwise, it is this season, it is the previous season in the 2024-2025 when people have managed to harvest a little this is 2025. And we are hoping that this 2025-2026 season, our farmers are going to have a very good yield, especially that we had received rains early, and currently, as I'm speaking, the rainfall is ongoing, and according to the meteorological report which we have received on the forecast of rainfall, it is promising. Sure. Thank you very much, Doc, on the opportunity given to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mlombe. Right on time. Madam Kundananji, are you ready? Just mute yourself, Mr. Mlombe. Madam Kundananji, are you there? Engineer Mwenzi, you can go ahead whenever you're ready. Madam Mwenzi.
Yes, Doc.
Please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'll do my presentation after the next speaker.
Okay. Honorable Kangombe, it's an honor to have a member of parliament in our midst, and I'm very excited that lawmakers are taking very keen interest in these issues. So thank you for joining, and take us on whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. I don't know where I start from. I have a lot to say, and I'll try and limit my time so that we can allow others to also comment. My name is Engineer Christopher Kangombe, a Member of Parliament for Kamfinsa constituency in Kitwe. I'll start with the local problem very quickly, and then maybe try and give a national picture of the problem, and maybe talk about a few interventions that were considered in mitigating the impact of the drought between 2023 and 2024. So my constituency is predominantly, in terms of size, the bigger part of the area in Kamfinsa has got about 5 to 6 farm blocks. So we've got a farm block called Katoka Mema, which is after the Kamfinsa prison. We've got a farm block called Misaka A and Misaka B. So that makes it 3 farm blocks. Then we've got another farm block called Kanshimu farm block, which makes it 4. And then we've got Chankalamu farm block, which makes it 5. There must be another farm block, I think the Mwekera farm block. So Mwekera has got Mwekera 1, Mwekera 2, Mwekera 3. So I'll quickly go to the impact of the drought on the local farmers, because previously, 2021, 2022, I think we didn't have a lot of complaints from people regarding the issue of the available amount of water to support agriculture. So most of the farmers in my constituency obviously depend on water for them to be able to plant and be able to produce their harvest. So we had a lot of reports coming into 2023, 2024 in all the 6 farm blocks that we have. So from that perspective, I think that the constituency was heavily affected Now, Kamfinsa is not the only constituency which has got farmers. I think that we have literally most constituencies out of the 156. I think we can only exclude the urban constituencies, constituencies like maybe Kawata, these which are in the capital city. In Ndola, maybe we can talk about maybe is it Kabushi? But the other constituencies, in short, Doc, I wanted to give a picture that what happened in Kamfinsa, I think from a national picture point of view, I think we had a national challenge. That is why it was declared a disaster. First point. Second point, I noticed that on one of the slides, you did demonstrate that there's a structure in place, okay? So under the laws of Zambia, and these are some of the things we've been looking at Parliament, we've got the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, which is like the national unit, which is under the Office of the Vice President, which is supposed to deal with disasters, and the drought is definitely a disaster. Now, there's one problem which I have noticed. Immediately a problem such as a drought occurs, and you all rush, cameras rush there. His Excellency issues a comment. We've had cases in Parliament where the minister responsible for water, okay, the minister responsible for green economy, they've issued what I may call ministerial statements in Parliament where they alert the country that, not really alert the country, but they inform the country on the rainfall pattern, the expected amount of rainfall that we'll receive. And you know, a minister is a politician, so he relies on the experts. So the experts at the meteorological department will provide a brief to the minister, and then the minister comes to Parliament. Now, one of the observations I've made is that despite these ministerial statements, now the ministerial statements will indicate which part of Zambia will receive good rainfall, which part won't receive rainfall. So it's supposed to be a guide. But unfortunately, I think that the action, the steps to prevent the impact, because that is, I think, what is key. The experts are saying rainfall won't be adequate. So you all know that the rainfall won't be adequate. The figures are there, the forecasting is there. But the problem comes in that there's no one now who's ensuring that, colleagues, we are going to have this problem. Can we quickly mitigate the impact? Let's prevent this from happening, because you can't dictate how much rainfall that comes, but you can mitigate the impact. You can't prevent. You can't say no. We'll ensure that since the rainfall won't be adequate, let's put this and this in place. So you can only do the mitigation. So one of the things I've noticed, and this is not a Kamfinsa problem, the Constituency Development Fund has got provision for a component to deal with disasters. Now, if farmers want more water because there's poor rainfall, and then you have houses that may collapse even when it hasn't rained, or if you have challenges that require a classroom block to be fixed in terms of the roofing, the Constituency Development Fund component, Doc, is then not enough to deal with the impact of a drought, because we have to understand a drought is like at a high scale. It's not just one bridge that has collapsed. When you talk about a drought, you're looking at inadequate rainfall to provide support to other aspects such as agriculture. So is the 2-3 million kwacha enough for Kamfinsa to deal with its drought challenges? Unfortunately, it's not. Is the same amount of money enough to deal with drought challenges in a farm block such as Mukushi? Definitely it's not. So I've tried to give a general picture so that those that are part of this conversation can then be able to say, okay, from the perspective of the structure, Vice President, DMMU National Coordinator, is the problem the lack of funding to DMMU? Is the problem the failure to take action before the drought occurs? Because a drought can be predicted. I think that you can tell that this is the month of November, we haven't had rainfall. You then begin putting things in place. So to wrap up my submission, Doc, and for the benefit of those that have followed this, my short submission, number one, I think that Kamfinsa was not spared. We had a national problem. Number two, do we have an institution that should deal with drought in Zambia or any other disaster? Yes, we have DMMU. We even had, I think, when I was privileged, Doc, to be mayor for Kitwe, we even had, I think, a team at district level that was responsible for this particular assignment. So in terms of structure, I think that we have all systems in place. What I think we've not been able to do is when the funding is made available, because no one has got the luxury of resources. So if you are going to have, I'm just doing it for argument's sake, $1 billion kwacha in the national budget for DMMU, and your technocrats are saying there will be a drought, I think that their portioning of the resources should change. The national budget allows for money to be utilized based on the circumstances. And I thought that that is one component I thought I could highlight. Do we have qualified people at DMMU? Do we have qualified people at meteorological department? I know at meteorological department we have qualified people. I don't know about DMMU. I've not looked at the structure of DMMU, but I think that we've not done enough to ensure that we prepare for an imminent disaster such as a drought. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. Very interesting perspectives right there. Madam Wenzi, whenever you're ready. Madam Wenzi, are you there? Hello, Madam Wenzi,
Yes, Doc.
please take us on.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mwenzim Timbwapiri. I'm an environmental engineer and I'm currently a student at the Copperbelt University, doing my Master of Science in Climate Change and Sustainable Development. What has brought me to this meeting today is my interest in working with urban farmers and also small-scale farmers in Zambia. I've been doing it from 2022, and I can say that the 2023 and 2024 drought really impacted us. There's a saying that goes that you need at least 4 years to recover from 1 year of drought. But now being hit 2 years consecutively with drought, that means at least 8 years. We'll need at least 8 years to be able to recover from, the effects that the previous drought has put on us. So when it comes to like urban farming is simply, like in my context, when I say urban farming, I mean like the backyard gardens that we have. Nowadays, people like me, I want to know where my food is coming from. So I would rather, grow the food myself in my backyard garden instead of relying on different vegetables that we go and buy in the supermarkets, because I don't have history of how those crops are being grown. I don't know what chemicals were used to grow those crops. And for me to be able to maintain my health, I want to grow my own food. When it comes to like urban farming and small scale farming at large, the drought led to water scarcity. Urban farming, like I said, is done in the backyard gardens. And when we look at the sources of water for most of our households, so there are people who are connected to like a water supply company. If you're in Lusaka, probably Lusaka Water and Sewerage and stuff like that. But relying on that water is not sustainable, because we have situations where people go weeks or even months without regular water supply. So being able to water your garden turns into a luxury because whatever water that you have has to cater for, your domestic necessities. A lot of people have gone into like drilling boreholes and things like that. But again, when we look at the boreholes, uh, you need electricity for you to be able to pump that water. And now we have load shedding. So it's like everything has, its ups and downs and stuff like that. Like I said, the crops that we planted, have been failing because we don't have water, and we know that water is a necessity for the crops to grow. It led to reduced yields and loss of income for most of the farmers. I was able to experience this firsthand because we moved to Mungule, which is like 9 kilometers from 10 miles area in 2022. And when we tried to plant our first crops, like they grew well, that was 2022. 2023, I can tell you for a fact to say most of the hard work that the farmers in the area had put in went to waste, okay? Because the crops died. All the investments that they had put in, like they dried up in those crop fields. And instead of just sitting back and crying like everybody else, it's really pushed me into this work that I'm doing now, which is climate smart agriculture sensitization, because I believe most farmers are undergoing the effects of drought without really understanding what it is that is causing that drought. So we need to go to the root first and let them understand what climate change is. Let them understand how they can adapt to climate change, how they can mitigate climate change, so that even as they are facing future climate threats, they'll be able to understand where it is coming from and they know what it is that they need to do to be able to, be resilient against climate change. When it comes to how the government can help, firstly, the same sensitization point that I brought up through the Ministry of Agriculture, through, local NGOs, the government can come up with programs where they're able to sensitize farmers all around the country on climate change, on drought. Today we can be going through drought, but next time maybe to be another climate threat like floods and stuff like that. But the farmers are supposed to be able to be sensitized against, like climate change, sustainable development, and things like that. Also, the government should help the farmers know the different drought resistant crops that they can grow for them to be able to have good yields, and also the different irrigation systems that they can employ. Also, they can offer different types of training on climate smart agriculture practices. And when it comes to the training, I took time off my work with the Ministry of Mines 3 months ago to just work as an intern at an organic farm where they grow their crops organically without the use of, fertilizers. They grow their crops with compost. They make compost from waste, the normal domestic waste that we all have in our homes. They use that and mix it with, wood chips. They mix it with leaves and they're able to use that to make their crops more nutritious, which can also be a game changer for Zambia at large. Because if our soils are more nutritious, it means even when we are hit with things like drought, our plants, the plants that we grow, will be more, will be more healthy to fight the different problems that drought comes with. And also with the help of like the same compost, it's able to maintain the moisture in the soil, which makes our plants at least able to have that moisture as they wait for more rain, if the farming is rainfall dependent, or if the farming is like dependent on, you know, irrigation or watering before you water next. At least because of the compost that you've put, your plants will be able to maintain that moisture and they'll be able to grow. My goal for Zambia going forward, 2026 onwards, is to, you know, see us move from just relying on rainfall to coming up with other ways of, you know, watering our crops. For urban farmers like us, we can do water harvesting. That's rainfall water harvesting. Or if you have a borehole, you can do like drip irrigation. And also the compost that I brought up, which is an organic fertilizer. It will help improve the soil health so that the crops are able to grow better. Yeah, and also there are other natural methods that can help us grow our crops, and we reduce our costs and dependence on the chemical fertilizers. I believe that resilience against drought is a team effort. It won't just take the farmers alone. It needs team effort from government, the policymakers, the NGOs, all the different types of farmers, be it the urban farmers, the small scale farmers, and also the large scale farmers. We need to work together to be able to see how best we can, you know, be more resilient against climate threats. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Wenzi. Really appreciate that. Our next panelist is somebody from an institution that gives us the data that we need to make decisions for drought-related, meteorological, and you know, everything in the air. So it is an honor to introduce to you Mr. Victor Bupe, who is a senior meteorologist. I hope I got that right, Mr. Bupe. And he is stationed at the Zambia Meteorological Department, an institution that I have personally worked closely with in the past. And I'm always inspired by the dedication and inspiration that colleagues from ZMD have to ensure that we are forewarned and that we have the resources that we need to face drought. So, Mr. Bupe, please take us on.
Oh yeah, good evening, fellow participants. As the doc has already mentioned my name, I'm Bupe, the senior meteorologist from the Zambia Meteorological Department headquarters. I would have had, if I had an opportunity, I would have also done a PowerPoint presentation, but I had a problem with powering my laptop. However, I'll try to go step by step to explain two or three things which are key to the drought monitoring in the country. As you are aware, the Zambia Meteorological Department is under the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment with the mandate of monitoring, recording weather, analyze this weather data to produce the forecast as well as the warnings. These warnings should not just be kept, they have to be disseminated to the community, to socio-economic sectors of the country to ensure there is sustainable development. And not only that, also to ensure that we save life and also protect resources such as the fertilizers and monies that people would have spent when they were warned of a certain impending hazard. As you know, Zambia Meteorological Department exists with 42 manual stations countrywide. If you are to look at the district itself, the district numbers, we are just in 36 districts because certain districts have got 2 meteorological stations. And this is where you can find out government workers who are able to respond to the people's needs and also be able to disseminate meteorological information to the community. So as you know, the country is quite big and you are only in 36 district. But when it comes to infrastructure for monitoring weather, we have 220 automatic weather stations dotted around the country. As I speak today, each and every district as an automatic weather station. And not only that, we have also rain gauge stations that are dotted around the country. And we have more than 500 rain gauges around the country. And we used to have a good number of manual stations in the past, but with time, people were transferred. Then there were also cases of vandalism. They were reduced to less than 500. But with investment coming from the government as well as their cooperating partner, we have seen now a surge in the number of rain gauges that are now dotted around the country. Not only manual rain gauges, we have also automatic rain gauges that have been installed around the country. And all this infrastructure is key, especially in the weather monitoring and the recording. Now, coming to the products and services that we normally offer as Zambia Meteorological Department, we normally issue the seasonal forecast, which is an indicative of the global climate indices that are prevailing, whether it is El Nino or La Nina. And from these indices, we are able to give an early warning information on what each index is able to do. And I remember the 2023, 2024, we had a strong El Nino, and that was given out to the public. And the forecast surely indicated a reduction in rainfall activities in most parts of the country. Then we also give updates in terms of the weather. We have the daily weather updates and the 7-day weather updates, which is normally done on Monday and Friday. Friday as an update of what was given on Monday. Then you have got also the agrometeorological bulletin. This agrometeorological bulletin is a very good tool for crop monitoring. I know it started as an FAO project between Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Transport and Communication. By that time, MET was under Ministry of Transport and Communication. And we have picked it up as a monitoring tool. And we have continued working with the Ministry of Agriculture to co-produce this product, the agrometeorological bulletin. This is the tool that normally this is the bulletin that we normally produce every after 10 days of the month. So in short, in the month, we have got 3 copies that are 3 publications that are made, and they are disseminated to the public. We normally give the weather forecasts, and also the Ministry of Agriculture will give the advisory in terms of actual activities that need to be performed, yes, in the next 10 days. It is the same bulletin that has got also the water balancing information, which normally used to monitor the issue of soil moisture and the water requirement satisfaction index to ascertain the effect of weather, especially the water, rainfall on the crop development and the growth. And this one is issued every after 10 days. So the water balancing method using the GeoWRSI is a tool developed by FuseNet, which incorporates meteorological data as well as satellite data. It's able to show areas that have got moisture stress, moisture excess, and those which are doing well in terms of water requirements. And we also produce what is known as a flash flood guidance, which is normally issued during the rainy season, every after 2 hours, to give an indication of areas that are likely to give or to have the flash floods. Then we also produce what are known as climate indices. Climate indices are generated as the season progresses to track the performance of the rainy season. And one of the indices that we normally produce is the Standard Precipitation Index. This one is able to show the distribution of rainfall performance and classify the degree of dryness that have occurred in various parts of the country. In 2023-2024, when we ran the SPIs, there was an indication of a moderate to severe drought that had affected most parts of the country. Then you have got a data time series of more than 50 years. I know there are some voluntary stations such as Chikunyu Mission who have submitted data to us, and they've got a data time series of more than 100 years. But a good number of stations have got a data time series of more than 50 years old. And this data is not only kept in a manual form, it has been rescued in the digital form by the help of the government and the cooperating partner. This data now is in digital in digital form. That's how it is stored. So apart from all the products and services that have issued, we also interact with farmers through maybe workshops and the seminars, as well as through radio stations, because that's the mode of our communication remains more on televisions, radio, workshops, as well as maybe physical interactions with the people who normally visit our offices. But community radio stations have played a key role in disseminating most of our information. And how did we respond? Yes, maybe to the 2023-2024 drought as a department. One of the things that we did as a department is to intensify the dissemination of information to the farming community, so that people are very careful in terms of wasting their resources. Now, the only challenge that, yes, you can, as technocrats, we can still advise, but at the end of the day, farmers will try to make their own decisions like that. And that's what normally happened in 2023, 2024. Then, as a department under disaster management and risk management cycle, we are more on the pillar number 2, where we are more involved in monitoring, detection, and forecasting. We have improved on the forecasting too. We are now using numeric weather prediction models, and we have moved away from the manual systems, and we have got a number of tools that are used to track rainfall performance, and have incorporated artificial intelligence in them. Then you are also using at least real-time satellite imagery that normally shows us areas that are clear and the areas that have got the cloud data. Now, as a department, we still have challenges. Now, one of the challenges is the information at times is not clearly understood, especially by the general community. People normally say we are still using jargon, but we have tried now to train a number of extension workers. And some speaking now, we have trained more than 1,500 session of extension on how to package this meteorological information, how to interpret the meteorological information, package it, and
Hello, Mr. Mupe, are you there? I think we lost him. Are you there, Mr. Mupe? Do we have any other colleague from ZMD who can finish up from where he left off? Okay, maybe while we wait for him, we can go ahead and get into the discussion. I know we are behind time. I apologize for that. Please hang on just a little bit longer. I will open up the floor. There's been very interesting perspectives from Mr. Mulombwa talking about the compounding effect of drought in Central Province. Honorable Kangombe speaking into the policy structure and asking the biggest question, what is the challenge? Every drought seems to be getting worse than the previous one. And last time I had an interaction with ZMD, they said to me, drought has always happened in cycles of 5 years in Zambia. following the El Nino, La Nina's water cycles. And what is giving drought attention now is the population increase and demand on resources. So what is the biggest challenge as far as our response in our preparedness? As populations grow, and there's a need for us to increase our allocation for drought management and revise our policy approaches to managing such disasters. Madam Wenzi talked into urban nutrition and recommended mitigation programs, adaptation programs such as water harvesting in urban areas to ensure that people continue growing their food and ensuring that people are able to have control over what they eat. Mr. Vupe has been talking about what ZMD, the Zambia Meteorological Department, offers as far as drought management is concerned in our country. So I'm opening up the floor if you would like to follow up with a question to what other panelists have been talking about, or if you have any contribution or aftermath thought, please feel free to just unmute yourself and go ahead. The floor is open. Dr. Siwanda, good to see you on the call. Did you have a comment? Go ahead, Mr. Mlombwe.
Doc, can I make a comment or a question?
Yes, sure. Go ahead, Honorable.
Yeah, so I think the student from the Copperbelt University brought in a very key dimension, technical aspects to talk about crops which can be grown, quantities, when to plant, when to do what. I think that it's one aspect which I did overlook, and I'm grateful that she was able to share with us some of the options that are available. I know for a fact that Zambia has got, I think, 3 agroecological zones. I think we have 3. So depending on the zone where you are, I think that the information and the challenges that you are likely to face in terms of availability of water, availability of nutrition for your soils, I think those differ. So it may be important for the person who shared that data, maybe just to simplify, if there's any working document which is well summarized, that tells you the different things that can be done in different agroecological zones based on the prevalence of droughts in different areas. I don't know if there's any information. Thank you.
Hello?
Thank you, Honorable. Hi, Mr. Vupe. Welcome back. We'll give you a chance to finish your thoughts. We had gotten into the discussion. Please finish your thoughts before we continue.
Yes, I'm talking about the challenges. Yes, one of them is that of language barrier, but we are trying to train a good number of agriculture extension officers so that the farmers can understand us easily. Then the other one is, as you know, people at times they want to interact with the officers themselves. Then we are limited in terms of human resource distribution. We are just in 36 districts. Our hope is that if we can be found in all the districts, the better to interact with the farmers and give them the advice physically. Then the station network, we are still, it's not fully done. As you know, we need about 25 kilometer a station to be installed in a distance of 25 kilometers apart, but we are still very fast. You know, Zambia, the area coverage is quite big. So station network still remain limited. Then the other thing that we also need to start incorporating more of remote sensing data, such as the vegetative health index, as well as normalized differential index, which we have a vegetative index, which we have not been incorporating in most of our reports that we normally issue. So we need to incorporate more of the remote sensing data in our reporting is to ensure that we capture even the certain areas where we are not able to reach with our recording instruments. And the other thing that maybe I can say is institutional collaboration. It's not, we can't say it's strong. We are still developing it to be strong in Zambia, because at times we may have disjointed statement coming from two government institutions over the same matter that you are discussing, or maybe it could be drought. Maybe you can just see maybe a statement coming from Minister of Agriculture, which maybe may not be so much aware of, maybe coming from DMMU. So we are still strengthening that institutional collaboration as a department. This is what I can say at the moment, unless maybe the other things that will be veiled as we'll be discussing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wupe. I can attest to the collaboration part that we oftentimes work in isolation. And that makes the challenge even worse when this institution is saying one thing and the other is saying another. So there's need for us to work together and speak to each other before public appearance. So before you reconnected, Honorable Kangombe asked a question with regards to the agroecological zones. I think this was a question that spoke to Madam Mwenzi's submission with regards to soil types and whether there's any regional specific interventions to ensure that we help communities in these areas to adapt to drought. For instance, the soil type and the rainfall patterns in Luapula is different from that of Southern Province or Western Province. So is there any document of reference that Honorable Kangombe can look at, or just for our knowledge, of interventions that are available out there that speak to the specific needs of specific regions? I think, Mr. Bupe, you can help respond to that. I think you are more keen to the agroecological zones and what's happening there. But Madam Mwenzi, you can also respond. And if anybody else has a response to Honorable Kangombe's question, please feel free. Just unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. As you know, we have got 3 agroecological zones. But one thing that people should know that these zones have not shifted. They still remain there. And if there are reductions in rainfall that have been registered over a long time, but they still remain the normal range in that particular zone. The most vulnerable region is, as you know, is always Region 1, which comprises mostly the valley areas of Zambia. That's the Gwembe Valley, as well as the area around the Luangwa Valley. These are the areas that are quite vulnerable. And when it comes to met response, this is where a good number of installations have been done. Okay, most of the projects that normally come in the country, they always look at these areas, and you could find that a good number of weather monitoring instruments have been installed and in these areas, and we keep on monitoring what is there. Yes, there are a good number of reports that have been done. I think the Honorable can also check on the NAPA documents, the NAPA reports, and the National Adaptation Program reports. They have dealt on the issue of Region 1, and also given even some of the statistics in terms of rainfall trends and what has really transpired in the past maybe 30 years and so on. So region remains vulnerable, but agroecological zones have not yet shifted. They will still remain the way they are.
Thank you, Mr. Bope. Madam Mwenzi, did you have anything to add to that?
I think for now, no. But as I proceed in my, research and studies, I can be able to share different things that I find with our Honorable Member of Parliament. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Isaac Mulombo, you had your hand up. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. So I just wanted to indicate only the alternative livelihood which the communities took when they were hit by the drought up there in Kapiri South. You find that a lot of community members resorted to charcoal production. Then those who managed to mitigate on their own, they managed to go into irrigation, though the population which managed to go into irrigation are few. So we find that the alternative source which they took also it is unsustainable, because in the long run we find that they were also promoting massive cutting down of trees. So like Mulungush Power Station, Lunsemfo Hydroelectric Power Station along Mulungush Dam, it is a protected area. So in that area, they have put in terms of restriction to the local people in terms of cutting down of trees, but they have allowed the livestock to go and access water from the rivers. Then on the mitigation part, I think the only mitigation which could be indicated, we can just refer to the normal social cash transfer. But maybe the Ministry of Agriculture and other stakeholders, they have taken up a report from that area. I would like to indicate that it is an area where civilization had started by late 1920s. There was a hydropower station which was run by the whites. So in terms of agriculture, it started long time ago. So there is a lot of forest clearance because people had to clear fields to do agriculture. So the way the same southern province experiences that plateau area, it is a very small area, but in terms of erratic rainfall pattern, when there is a drought, it is highly affected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mlombwe. You brought in a very interesting perspective of when we don't deal with drought from a holistic point of view. Look at the risks and look at the disasters also, and the needs that come with that. So you have a drought happening. We are dealing with response, but in the absence of mitigation, then people engage in practices that end up compounding the disaster. When you cut down trees and you have erosion issues, soil compromise, and all those other things that will be as a result of that. And that's not only a challenge in Central Province. From the studies that we did, people said that there's been a lot of migrations that are happening from the south, moving into agroecological zones where there's better rainfall patterns. People are moving their animals and going to start agricultural practices there. So I think there's a need there for government to move in and ensure that we are not only responding, but we are also attending to these other socioeconomic challenges that are mushrooming. One thing about these drought issues and their socioeconomic implications is that life will go on whether there's interventions or not. So in the absence of sustainable interventions, people then will resort to charcoal burning, deforestation, and unsustainable practices that will affect our country even more. Any more submissions, questions, feedback? Go ahead, Madam Mwenzi.
Yeah, when it comes to the alternative source of livelihood, I think we need to, prioritize training the people on different forms of agriculture that they can, put their money in. Instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, which is like crop farming alone or crop-related agriculture alone. There are other, avenues that you can try to explore, like let's say poultry, piggery. People can, do goat farming, so that if one area fails, at least you have these other areas that you're are doing that are able to sustain you. So I think diversification is also another way of making sure that the farmers don't go to unsustainable practices like charcoal burning and things like that. If they diversify into other forms of agriculture, if one basket fails, they have these other eggs in the other baskets, that will be able to sustain them. I think that's a route that we can explore. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other submissions, questions? I think Mr. Wupe provided us with a whole list of resources that government is providing to help our communities know when drought is expected to happen, where it's going to happen, and things like that. He also talked about challenges such as vandalism of this equipment in our communities. I guess the question I would have for other sectors and panelists is, from your own point of view, take for instance, in the case of Honorable Kangombe, how can you support ZMD to ensure that these resources reach your constituents, number one, and also that they are more aware of the resources that are available from ZMD to your communities? How can we partner and collaborate with ZMD to ensure that our people are using these resources? And also for Mr. Wupe, in what ways do you think other sectors can support and ensure that there's more effectiveness in the usage of these resources? Whoever is ready, please feel free to just unmute.
So, Doc, you are saying the effective utilization of these resources. I think one of the methods that we have also employed is to involve the farmers themselves as gauge readers, so that they take responsibility of these instruments that we normally have. And it has worked well, unless where maybe a farmer has died or has relocated. Then another thing is that we have pushed the installations again in schools, so that the instruments do not just provide basic science to the learners, but also they are well secured. Because by the time we started installing most of our automatic weather stations at schools, at least there has been a reduction in terms of vandalism. So we are trying to bring the ownership of most of this equipment to the people, to the community themselves, and also sensitize them on the importance of having such installations, and especially automatic weather stations, because during drought years, we can use the same data from the automatic weather station. Automatic weather stations are able to generate what is known as the reference evapotranspiration. That reference evapotranspiration is what has turned Israel what it is today, because you just use it to compute the water requirements by just multiplying with the crop water requirements. And the farmers need to be trained in that. As MET, we are going in that direction to ensure that farmers know the value of this and how they can use the same information, especially for irrigation during the time when we have got reduced rainfall activities. So we are transferring ownership to the people themselves so that they see the value.
Anybody else, whenever you're ready? How do you think your sector or community can help in disseminating these resources?
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead, Honorable.
Yeah, so at Parliament now, we are doing what is called sector budget analysis. Now, What is sector budget analysis? June, the Ministry of Finance will tell stakeholders to start making submissions on what will be the priorities per sector, and that is how the ministry then starts building the document called the national budget. Then the Minister of Finance will tell each ministry what is their maximum, it's called a cap, the maximum their budget can be. So you can't exceed your cap. So what we've done at Parliament now is that, as opposed to parliamentarians debating the budget in Parliament on the floor of the House, we now have 10 days for what is called sector budget analysis. So one of the things I would propose myself in terms of how we get the resources to the people is that the meteorological data would have been captured. The experts would have told us if we are in that 5-year cycle for a drought. The experts would have informed the rest of us what are the priorities in the budget. So that when it comes to sector budget analysis, Doc, we then need to ask ourselves, how much money has been given to green economy to deal with climate adaptation? How much money has been given to Ministry of Local Government if there's a component to do with disasters under drought? We must then start putting the numbers there so that at the end of the day, Doc, when the budget is now finally approved, it should be able to speak to specific interventions. Now, you can only do that at sector budget analysis. The people in Kamfinsa, Chifunabuli, Namwala, Western Province, they'll tell you what their concerns are, but they won't know that the cycle of the drought is about to occur again. So there must be some informed decision made at resource allocation, and that is where I think sector budget analysis comes in. That is where Parliament will be able to say, okay, let's put more money now into irrigation. Do we have a nearest stream in Kamfinsa to take to the 5 farm blocks? Yes. Kamfinsa has got how many streams? The actual name Kamfinsa Dog is a stream. So the constituency is named after a stream. So you have the Kamfinsa stream, you've got the Mwekera stream, and of course the main river, the Kafue River. So in terms of nearby sources of water, you can then ask yourself, how do we get this water into the farm block? Of course, Wama has to be brought on board because you don't want to dry up all the streams with water going to the farm block. So in short, it's possible to agree what intervention is critical for each particular area where people are doing farming. I think that is my view.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? I think the sector approach to budgeting will be a very critical move moving forward. We usually focus on the loudest sectors and often neglect those that are not very prominent. But at the end of the day, people's lives depend on them. So breaking down our national budgeting into sectors will be very critical for us. So that's a wonderful move by Parliament. Thank you for sharing, Honorable. Mr. Bupe, you talked about agromet bulleting and other more specific products that ZMD is engaged in producing. One of the challenges that we found in our research was the the camp officer ratio to farmers. We found that in some cases, one camp officer is representing or supporting 500 farmers. So in the agro-meteorological bulletin, how do you ensure that the information that is put out there is representative of people when the officer to farmer ratio is in other words, how do we ensure confidence in the products that you release? How to talk to us through the process of how that consultation is done and how you reach at the conclusions that you reach at. The other challenge is the focus that is released is sometimes very general. Like you highlighted, one of the challenges is the interpretation of the forecast. So how can we ensure more confidence in the products that ZFD produces, speaking to those factors?
Yes, the agrometeorological bulletin is it's produced by, in fact, 3 institutions. We have got livestock, Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. Then you have Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Green Economy. That's Zambia Meteorological Department. So the Zambia Meteorological Department offers expert information pertaining to how the weather is likely to be in the next coming days. Then the rest will offer now advisory on this, on how this weather is going to maybe affect the farmers and how what activities farmers should really do in that particular period. When it comes to livestock, they also do the same. So to ensure that this information is quite good and reliable, we bring these the 2 experts on board, so that MET doesn't say what Ministry of Agriculture is supposed to say. It has to come from them. Yes, MET doesn't say what livestock have to say. Yes, it has to come from them. Then when disseminating this, when collecting the data, we correct not only meteorological data, we also correct data from the farms, from the farm areas. The farmers themselves, through Met officers and the camp extension officers, they are able to give the feedback in terms of maybe the crop stage and maybe what are some of the hazards they've experienced. Maybe there are pests within their farming area. That information comes to me, including the crop stages. And to amplify on that, we have developed an app. This is an agrometeorological app. And working with the Ministry of Agriculture through the PDAC project, some extension officers in Southern Province and Northwestern have already been given the tablets with this app. And this app has got a provision for the farmers, some farmers, as well as the camp officers, to be able to give the feedback to the Zambia Meteorological Department. And they'll be able also to access the forecasts through the same tablet. So we do not just rely on the camp extension officer. We also leverage on existing technology. We at times do the summary of the bulletin and send it through WhatsApp, then also send it to the community radio stations, because some of media personnel have also been trained on how to interpret weather information and how to disseminate this weather information to the farmers. We have done that training with the support of the Food Agriculture Organization, FAO, and we have done that in the Eastern Province as well as in Southern Province. And we are looking forward to have a good number of media personnel also be trained, because they are a key in terms of information dissemination from the Zambia Meteorological Department. As we do not exist in each and every district, they normally play a very good game in our value network in terms of information dissemination.
Thank you. That's very helpful. You talked about climate indices such as the SPI and others that you're currently using, but you also talked about normalized vegetation index and others, which I think are very critical to understanding, interpreting climate situations as a whole. Is there a reason why we are not using such yet as a country? Is it an expertise limitation? Is it resources? Would you speak to that, Mr. Wupe?
For SPIs, we do the calculations and the information is given to the public and especially the policy makers. Now, for the NDVI, it's just the tools that are not really available to avail us with the indices. We used to have a well-developed remote sensing unit. Now, with time, it was not upgraded. So instead of receiving this vegetative index, it's like the projects that came decided to install the devices, install the computers at the Ministry of Agriculture. And the Ministry of Agriculture has been monitoring the normalized vegetative index as well as the vegetative health index. What would have been also part of us now was installed in the Ministry of Agriculture, and that's where the monitoring is. And we have just focused ourselves on the issue of weather data, as well as the monitoring the moisture indices as a department, and we do communicate through the agro-meteorological bulletin. It's there, but seated with the Ministry of Agriculture. Yes.
Well, thank you very much. Before we close, I will give chance to any winding up remarks from the panelists. I will ask Honorable Kangombe to wrap up, and also Mr. Vupe from our national leaders to give final remarks. But before then, does anybody else have any burning issues before we wind up? Okay, Honorable Kangombe, you can give your closing remarks, and then Mr. Vupe will close for us. Mr. Vupe, you can go ahead if you are ready.
Yeah, as the Zambia Meteorological Department through the Ministry of Green Economy, we welcome this platform, which is very key, especially in trying to share information pertaining to sustainability of our economy, and also to save the common person in the community, especially those who are vulnerable. So as Zambia Meteorological Department, we are very much appreciating this platform, and they will be also use the same platform to upgrade or update our stakeholders, as well as our colleagues who are involved in the research, to know what we can offer as a department, and what are some of the resources they can come for at the department that we can provide, and the products and services that we have. Issues of drought monitoring requires a concerted effort, so that people out there, they have clear information. So if people are working together and they've got one voice, it doesn't confuse the recipient of the information. So we need to strengthen what we have started, so that at the end of the day, it is going to help the country, especially in terms of decision making, not only for the government, and also for a small order farmer out there. I thank you, Doc, for such an important initiative, and we look forward to attend another session as a department and the ministry.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vupe. Honorable Kangombe, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Are these the closing remarks?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I'm grateful that you thought I could add value to the conversation. The issue of the drought vis-a-vis it being classified as a disaster, I think it's a problem that we need to be able to respond to more effectively. You have institutional memory. The representative, the person who's just from closing, has got quite a lot of data. I hope that these conversations can be useful to other people that are working in this space, especially students of higher learning. If you're able to provide such a platform to, I know Mulongoshi, CBU, these are institutions that offer training in this field, disaster management, responding to droughts, climate change. This information is very useful, not just to students, but I think people in this space. For us in the political space, especially from a policy point of view, Parliament, I think that there's been quite a lot of, there must be some reports of committee which may have dealt with some of these challenges. I'll try and retrieve some of this data and share with you, Dr. Mwape. You work in this space and you may find some of the things we've been able to discuss to be very useful. Otherwise, I'm very grateful for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kangombe. Thank you, Mr. Vupe. I know I've gone beyond the time I asked for. Thank you, Madam Mwenzi, Mr. Mlombwe, and all the other panelists that were invited and accepted to participate in this webinar. I'm always encouraged by your interest and your investment into things of this nature. So please accept my appreciation for your dedication and interest. Thank you. In the first webinar, we had connectivity issues because there were over 80 people on Zoom, and we had over 200 people watching from the Facebook Live. So we intentionally decided that let's only have panelists on this Zoom platform, and then other people can follow on Facebook. I will also post this on my YouTube channel. So if you would like to look back, or other people can refer and look at the resources and discussions that we've had today. So thank you so much. Look out for the third session. For the third session, I'm thinking that I will invite experts to talk about drought planning under limited resources as one of the issues that came out through this discussion, that our communities are already faced with other challenges. And drought is not the only disaster that we experience. We experience floods, we experience cholera. Most recently, we had COVID-19. So how can we leverage the limited resources that we have to plan for drought in a developing country context like ours? So that will be the context for our third session of this webinar series. Please look out for that. And thank you so much again to every one of you for making time to be a part of this. Thank you. The meeting is...
Thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Mm-hmm.